So there's been a lot of discussion surrounding Black Panther's uniform, and I feel like there's a lot of people who are saying that, Black Panther still sucks with this uniform isn't good enough, Black Panther's still a terrible character, and that kind of got me thinking about what parts of this criticism are true, because in my testing of Black Panther and his new uniform against Knull and all that, he doesn't really seem that bad, I feel like people are dunking on him unnecessarily. Now look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Black Panther's the new #1 highest damage dealing character in Marvel Future Fight, because, that'd just be lying, right? But I feel like people are so quick to dismiss Black Panther's power level as a character, and I wanted to get a good look about, how good he really is in terms of the meta right now. And what better way to do that than by taking him up against two of the strongest combat heroes in the game. So that's Moon Knight and Venom. I'm taking him into a stage 3 of Knull and comparing his results against Venom and Moon Knight. Now, this is a run where none of these characters have leaderships of their own. I mean, Moon Knight's and Venom's leaderships don't really boost their damage, and I know Black Panther has a crit rate buff on his leadership, but given that his crit rate is capped out on the build, which I'll be showing later, he effectively doesn't have a leadership. And all of these characters have the same supports, the same strikers. So as per usual, we're gonna be testing to see who can get Knull past that first phase the fastest. And in this case, it's Black Panther who finishes first. He is the first one to be able to get Knull out of that chair among the combat heroes here. So what does that say about Black Panther's power level? Now, this test shouldn't be definitive proof necessarily that Black Panther is better than Venom or Moon Knight, but it definitely shows that he can hang with this level of company. And considering the amount of praise that Moon Knight and Venom got when they came out, which was just a few months ago, mind you, I think Black Panther is in an okay spot, at least compared to other combat male heroes. I mean, at worst, he's around their level, and at best, he's the new best combat male hero. I don't think that's too bad. However, I do feel like this does say something about the power level of these characters and of their performance in World Boss Legends specifically. I feel like the game has changed a lot since Venom and Moon Knight first came out and, wowed players everywhere. And while players have considered these characters the strongest combat male heroes for the longest time, I feel like people have generally accepted that these characters don't necessarily do well in World Boss Legend. Not to say that they can't do it, but there are other characters that can do a lot better than these characters with similar levels of investment. And I think that's ultimately why so many people are kind of disappointed with this new Black Panther uniform, because people just expect so much more from characters nowadays, especially in game modes like World Boss Legend. I'll continue with the discussion of where I think Black Panther's power level truly lies later on, but for now, let's look at the build that I have on my Black Panther currently. So we look at it over here, we have a lot of the stats almost capped out, none of them capped out necessarily. Ignore defense almost there, crit damage is almost there. The crit rate, you don't necessarily need it to be that high because he does give himself a crit rate buff on his skills, so you can opt to ignore that. Maybe if you have a few more resources, put a few of the stats into dodge if you can, because it would help his survivability. You can see he's a combat human male superhero, he has the command and the agility tag, so that's all well and good. You can see that he has quite a few Urus here, one Odin's Blessing, nothing too crazy, generally something that you can achieve as a free-to-play player or as a low-spending player. Nothing too crazy here as well, all the necessary skills level up. We'll discuss the skills later when we talk about his kit, of course. He has a rank 2 type enhancement. Again, could be better, but I'm not really going to use it much. We have a stage 6 overdrive set, so his ISO 8 set could get a lot better as well. And I feel like this is probably going to be the most high-end part of his build, which isn't necessarily that high-end, I think, because it's not even a CTP, but it's a crit rate 200% damage proc. Yeah, 200% damage procs are pretty rare among obelisks, I know that, and I feel like you also have to understand that with the comparison that I made to Venom and Moon Knight earlier, both of those characters had 140 procs, so Black Panther's performance was slightly boosted by having 60% more increased damage on his attack. I just feel like I have to make that clear. I just didn't feel like, replacing this obelisk for the comparison. But yeah, you can see we're rocking a heroic level uniform right now with attack speed as the only option that we have. You don't have a lot of these uniform options unlocked. I feel like the last one I have is Dr. Octopus on his legendary upgrade, but yeah, that's all we got. So yeah, this is the Black Panther build that we've got right now. It's nothing too crazy. I think it's something that people can generally aspire for. So let's see just how far this build on Black Panther can take us. I'm going to take him into the highest stage of World Boss Legend Knull that I can do with him, while also discussing the strongest parts of his kit. Before we do that, I want to talk about the rotation that I'm going to be doing. We're going to be doing a 3 cancel, 4 cancel, 5. And I think it's important to make it clear that the 4 has a specific cancel that you're going to go for. You want to cancel when he slashes upwards, because after Black Panther slashes upwards, that's when it's guaranteed that his little clones will appear and add those extra slashes. You can see here that if you cancel 4 into 5 immediately, you miss out on the Black Panther clones, which means you miss out on some damage. Whereas if you cancel 4 when he slashes upwards, the clones land and strike alongside the 5th skill. So yeah, that's basically how you want to play Black Panther. With his tier 3 skill, it's kind of the same thing. You still want to delay the slash on 4, except you cancel 5 immediately into the tier 3 skill so that all of the hits land on it exactly. So yeah, now we're gonna take Black Panther in against World Boss Legend Knull, the highest stage of World Boss Legend Knull that I can reasonably clear with him right here to see how well he performs. This is a stage 3 of Knull, so it's not necessarily something that's too high. Like I've said in previous videos, around average for me is stage 4, stage 3. So Black Panther is around on that level, maybe a bit on the lower end. Again, we're going to be rocking his leadership with Valkyrie and Mystique as supports. We're going to have Venom for him here so that he can supply him with some heals, as well as Ancient One to help him with some debuff cleansing, as well as some ignore dodge strikers. Now let's talk about Black Panther's kit, because on paper, there's a lot to be excited about. He has an accumulation on his 3rd skill based on damage dealt to opponents. It's always exciting when a character gets accumulation on their base kit, because it means there's a consistent damage increase on a character's regular rotation. His 4th skill has a frenzy buff, which gives him 40% all attack, all defense, as well as 1% all speed. And it is also cancelable, like I showed with the rotation earlier. It's like you have to delay cancel it with a slash upwards and all that. You already know that. His 5th skill also has a frenzy buff. He gets 2 frenzy buffs with this new uniform. It's kind of crazy. The frenzy buff is smaller on this 5th skill. It's only 30% all attack, all defense compared to the 40% on his 4th skill. However, this 5th skill gives him 30% crit rate as well, which means you only really have to build his crit rate up to 45%. And given that this buff lasts for 7 seconds on an 8-second cooldown, if you have the skill cooldown listed on here, you can basically have it up the whole time. You miss having max crit rate for like 1 second. It's not too bad if you just build 45% crit rate on your Black Panther. Now there are other parts of his kit that I think are worth discussing as well, because he basically got a whole rework to his passives with this new uniform. His 4-star passive gives him 15% crit damage, which does help cap out his build, and gives him an additional 100% chance to increase his crit damage by 10% on critical attacks. This means that you could potentially be dealing 210% crit damage with your critical attacks if you have max crit damage on your build. His tier 2 passive gives him a whopping 50% guaranteed crit rate. For reference, Phil Coulson's passive gives hero allies 20% guaranteed crit rate, and he was considered one of the best supports for a long time. Black Panther's tier 2 passive gives him double that. So that's kind of crazy. He also has additional skill damage, bonus damage, as well as a damage reduction by 15%. These passives look amazing, and they were very much warranted considering how bad Black Panther has been for the longest time. Now to me, the most disappointing thing about his kit is his tier 3 skill. His tier 3 skill was always bad. It was always considered one of the worst, and instead of just straight up buffing it, they kind of nerfed it and buffed it at the same time, and the result isn't very impressive to me. They did take away the 20% attack buff that he gets with other uniforms, and to compensate for it, this uniform makes his tier 3 skill hit a few more times. But by a few more times, I mean by 10 more hits. His old uniforms have his tier 3 skill hit for 20 hits, and this current uniform makes his tier 3 skill hit for 30 hits. Now look, I don't think this is good enough at all. I don't know why the Marvel Future Fight devs are so stingy about giving tier 3 skills power. A lot of characters have powerful tier 3 skills, don't get me wrong, but you have characters like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, whose tier 3 skills at best are average and at worst hit like pathetic damage numbers. This is a skill that you have to charge by going through multiple rotations. So why not have the skill actually be rewarding? Now look, Black Panther's tier 3 skill is the highest damage dealing skill on his kit, which of course it should be, but I just feel like they could do a lot better on this. I just think that giving Black Panther a top tier 3 skill would really help his power level. So that was Black Panther's kit, and of course you already know the skill rotation because I discussed it earlier, but I'll just put it here for reference again. You want to do 3, cancel 4, delayed cancel into 5, and with your tier 3 skill you want to do 3, cancel 4, cancel 5, cancel 6. I think this is generally the best skill rotation for him because you get the accumulation on the 3, the frenzy on the 4, the frenzy on the 5 with both of these rotations. So I think this is the best way to get the best out of Black Panther with his current kit. Something I'd like to mention about Black Panther that other people have mentioned also is that he does have survivability issues. Yeah, I know he does have protective measures on his kit. He has like immunity, he has damage received reduction, but I feel like in spite of that, he still has those survivability issues. For one, he doesn't have a heal. And for another thing, I don't really feel the damage received reduction when you take him into PvE content. So I imagine, like for example for PvP, you'd feel it a lot less. That kind of leads to Black Panther being more at risk of dying in combat compared to other characters. And it does mean you kind of have to take measures to keep him alive, such as, you know, like what I'm doing here with the Strikers, giving him Venom and Ancient One, give him a little more protection. So as you can see, we've almost got Knull done here with Black Panther. But yeah, in my opinion, Black Panther's power level is not terrible. He's kind of on the level of a character like, for example, Bucky, who we got recently. Not like too amazing, but not bad either. I think we've been spoiled recently because, you know, the Marvel Future Fight devs have had a lot of big hits with their uniforms, like the whole Black Order update, all amazing uniforms. Falcon, an amazing uniform as well. And so when you get a uniform that is not on that power level, I think it just appears more disappointing than it really is. I think this is a good uniform for Black Panther, and it's enough to make him a relevant character in today's meta. Look, let me reiterate this again. I don't think Black Panther is going to be a revolutionary character, especially not compared to the rest of the Marvel Future Fight roster. He's not going to be number 1. I don't think he's even going to be like top 10, top 15 for World Boss Legend clears. Don't get me wrong on that. But I think he's more than competent enough to hold his own in World Boss Legend and stuff like that. And again, he's one of the best combat heroes now, I think. And I feel like that kind of says a lot about the combat hero class, that their best heroes are not even among the best in terms of World Boss Legend clears. I feel like that's a problem that's kind of exacerbated by the fact that half of the World Boss Legends that we have are blast types. Again, just one, Mephisto. But yeah, the World Boss Legend doesn't seem like a place that combat types can excel in currently. So I feel like that's where a lot of the disappointment stems from. And I get it because World Boss Legend is kind of the main mode that I'm pushing right now. So my final verdict on this Black Panther uniform, it's a good uniform, not a must-buy by any means. If you have had Black Panther at tier 3 for a long time, this is a pretty good upgrade for him, I would say. It makes Black Panther an okay World Boss Legend pusher, and he could, again, possibly be the best combat hero now. But if you're looking for someone to help you in PvE in general, if you're looking for someone to help you push high World Boss Legend stages, I don't think this is the uniform for you. And if you were hoping that Black Panther was going to become one of the best tier 3s in the game, I don't think this is it either. Now look, we all may have our different perceptions about what Black Panther deserves. Personally, I would have loved to see him get more of a buff, but I definitely don't think this is bad by any stretch. So what do you think of Black Panther's uniform? Have you purchased it? Do you have Black Panther at tier 3? Do let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them as well. I hope that this video kind of helped outline how strong I believe Black Panther is. I hope it helped show what Black Panther could do in PvE content. And as always, thank you so much for watching.